Behind every great product is a great seal. Join us at the crossroads of preeminent product design engineering, seal mastery, and supply chain excellence, and learn from the makers of our future.
Hi, my name is Bill Sharrett, and I'm co-host of the Makers of Our Future podcast, where we talk with leaders in product design and manufacturing and highlight the role of the seal industry behind that product's success. The show is brought to you by Darcoid. The seal industry is changing and not always for the better. It's consolidating. Tribal knowledge is retiring out faster than it's being replaced. Design engineers specifying seals often struggle to get the support they need. Darcoid's doing something about that. We're building this podcast as a searchable store of wisdom, so you, our audience, can continue to stand on the shoulders of giants. You can learn more at darcoid.com. So today I'm talking to a design engineering leader and innovator who's impacted multiple industries and markets, someone whose success has depended on the best performing, most reliable seals. Welcome, Jeremy Galten, to Makers of Our Future. Jeremy started as a contributing engineer with a leader in medical ultrasound equipment, went on to become vice president at CamelBak, the inventor of the personal hydration systems, and then led engineering at an innovator in adaptive prosthetics. And now he runs his own consultancy company, the Galten Group. Jeremy, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You're welcome. So let's get to know you. Where'd you come from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in San Francisco, California, and went to college at University of California, Davis, and didn't stray too far from my hometown of San Francisco, and then eventually migrated down to the Silicon Valley for many years, and then have slowly migrated north up to Sonoma County. So not a very far radius from San Francisco.
Yeah, but right where the action's been at for the last 20 or so years, right?
Not complaining.
So how did you get your start? Your first job was as an engineer at Acuson, yes?
Yes. So I was graduating. I majored at UC Davis. I'd actually double majored in mechanical engineering and aeronautical engineering. At one point in my career, or my at least student career, I was thought about designing airplanes. But got the opportunity to actually be an intern between my junior and senior year at a medical company at Acuson in Mountain View. And I had a great experience doing that. And was a little bit shocked that I got hired because I certainly wasn't the smartest in my class, wasn't the least achieving, but I was kind of right in the middle of the pack. I remember asking my intern manager at the end of my internship why he hired me. And he said, I wanted somebody who I could spend 8 hours a day with, and someone who actually worked during college to help support themselves. And so those are the things that I did, and not necessarily the highest GPA or someone who's involved in the most things. Those things are not unimportant, but he wanted something that he didn't mind spending time with.
Good character and personality.
Yeah,
I get it. Excellent.
And then that turned into a position to open up in their advanced development team, and they had a position for a new college grad, and interviewed, and the internship helped get the job.
So the internship had kind of prepared you for what to expect and the culture, and so that was about an easy introduction to a new company, I think, as one could expect, right?
Right. It helped me be kind of a known quantity, so they understood, what I was capable of, what I was not capable of, and any new college graduate is not going to know much about the business, but they want to make sure they find someone that's coachable, someone who's experienced the culture, and again, someone that they don't mind spending a lot of their time with. That they can not only be productive but also be enjoyable.
Excellent. So then you moved on to the Fitch Design Consultancy Group. How was that?
Yeah, I did. I was a mechanical engineer, design engineer for Fitch, which was a worldwide consulting firm. I was out of the San Francisco office, and like most consulting firms, we worked on everything from boom cranes to printers to cell phones to air fresheners to So you name it, anything that walked through the door. So it was a tremendous experience to work on a variety of different consumer products, from startups to established companies, from Sun Microsystems to Microsoft to Hewlett Packard. So it was a really rich experience to be able to get exposure to all those different industries and different technologies.
Now, that's one of the things I love about the seal industry. There's, seals are in everything, so you get exposed to so many applications. Did that experience give you a sense of where you wanted to go next?
It did. I think I certainly, having worked on a medical product, I really right out of college, I really did enjoy that, and the fact that it was doing good by the world. And then working at Fitch, I enjoy working on physical products that people actually use, that people can enjoy or not enjoy, depending on how good a job that you did. But I enjoy making things people interact with, because I think, to me, it's an ultimate test of did you do your homework, and are you in touch, and are you able to create a product that not only a company can conjure up and design and sell for a profit, but people see enough value in it that they're actually willing to spend their hard-earned money on it and enjoy it. So that part of it was really appealing to me.
Excellent. That kind of leads us to CamelBak, but I'm going to pull you back to Fitch, because I understand you were running the intern program there for a while. Yes,
I did. We started an intern program there for a couple of reasons. One, interns are very helpful. There's a lot of as you know, there's a lot of things that need to happen and things to get done, and there's really a variety of reasons we do it. One is to get stuff done. Two is it's kind of our way of giving back to the experience that I had as an intern, to give good people a glimpse into kind of the industry and what it's about. Maybe even help them hone what interests them. In some cases, it may not be what they interned in, and maybe what some cases it is. And it also kind of quite selfishly gave us a good glimpse into, like, who are the good people coming out of college these days. And as you start to look at the build your program with talented, young, coachable people, getting some time with them and see how they work as kind of on a trial basis for both sides is really valuable.
So I think you kind of answered my next question, but I'll ask it anyway. So for tomorrow's budding engineers, kids in school, future interns who are watching today, how can they make the most of those interning opportunities?
Well, the first thing is probably find them, be diligent and looking, and, target some industries. If there's some things that really interest you, go ahead and reach out. And speaking from personal experience, during that application process, you figure out ways that you can somehow have your resume or, rise to the top. And that's not by saying you have the greatest GPA, talking from a voice of experience. It's not because you're the smartest, but what makes you valuable to someone like that. It could be things that you've done, whether they're jobs or not. I always find, especially on an intern resume, everybody has the same classes. So you can list your whole thing of classes, which is not unimportant. But what are the things that interest you? So I actually, when I interview interns, I spend a lot of time on their hobbies and why that interests them. And so making sure what is it that makes you the person that you are, whether it's volunteer work. I mean, I have people that work on cars, that are woodworkers, that are kite surfers, people that forage for mushrooms. So what it does, a couple of things. One, it tells a little bit about who you are, and also gives someone like me who may be interviewing you something to dive in on and say, why does that interest you? And that gives really that person a glimpse into, who am I going to be spending the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months with, and do I want to do that? So I think that would be important. Make sure to put those things down that make them uniquely you.
That's excellent advice. That's really good. Thank you. Let's move on to CamelBak.
Yes.
So you started there as engineering manager, moved up to director of design and engineering before the big step up to vice president of product. That's an amazing career progression over 16 years, long time with the company.
Yeah, it was. I always say it was kind of like working at kind of 4 different companies for a variety of reasons, both from a product line standpoint as well as even an ownership standpoint. So in that time, we went through 3 ownership changes and adapting to the style of whether it's a financial owner or a strategic owner, depending on who we were. So it was a tremendously rich experience to be able to do that. I was really fortunate to be a part of it. And just, some of it's dumb luck, some of it's hard work, but I'm very thankful for it.
So I imagine CamelBak had a compelling culture as well as a product. How do you retain the culture, the winning culture, when you go through so many changes in ownership? Is that a tricky situation?
It can be, and for the most part, we were pretty fortunate. And there's a reason why. There's a variety of reasons why companies buy companies. It's for their product. It's for their market share. It's for their access to something. We were fortunate that people, owners for us really wanted to buy us for obviously the product that we have, but we're also very effective in letting them know that, listen, great products come out of great cultures in a lot of cases. And so if you're doing well, and then they don't want to come in like, if the engine's running well, don't fix it. And so a big part of that was creating a culture internally of certainly of creating great products and doing so efficiently and doing so profitably. But also, in order to do that, you have to create a culture of accountability. You have to create a culture of fun to make sure that you're kind of addressing the whole person, not just what their function is, but them as human beings. And how do you create an environment where there's certainly a need for to get stuff done? But boy, if we can figure out a way to do that, that makes it fun and a place that they want to work as opposed to a place they have to work. To me, I think that's kind of the key.
No, I think that just shows kind of your character and passion kind of transcending above doing the day job of the engineering and setting the tone. That's compelling.
And some of it's a little bit selfish, Bill, because that's the way I like to work, and those are the bosses that I like to have. So I think it's important.
Excellent. So you joined in 2001. I mean, by then the CamelBak backpack hydration pack was like well established in the market, and CamelBak's the one and only, or had very small competition at that time. What was left to engineer at that point? I mean, were you looking at incremental performance improvement, cost reduction, manufacturing efficiencies? Where is the engineering at that time?
Well, all of the above. I think, how hard can it be, right? It's just a bag with a straw in it. So how hard can that be? But for anybody that has had the opportunity to try to hold back water or any fluid, it's really hard. But yeah, what were the opportunities? Well, the opportunities were, there was obviously always ways to make the product better, either just working as a better hydration system, working better for whatever activity that you're doing, whether it's on the trail or on the job or on the battlefield. There were a variety of different needs and requirements that those users had to be able to do the thing that's most essential, which is basically to drink water. Whether it's to perform better, retain more, cognitive awareness. And so we spend a tremendous amount of time trying to improve. We knew it wasn't perfect. We had flaws that we knew we needed to fix. And also, how do we take that kind of hydration leader status and then broaden that across a variety of different categories? And so we ended up adding everything from bringing that down all the way to water bottles in a variety of different materials, water treatment, nutritional supplements. So people trusted CamelBak as a hydration innovator. And so how do we take some of that brand equity and kind of peanut butter that across a different category? Because I knew if it came from us, it was going to be quality. It was going to be backed for life. And so that was an expectation they had, and it was a responsibility that we took very seriously, that if we entered a new category, that we were going to do it the best way we could. But there were some hard lessons along the way, and probably had the highest GPA in the School of Hard Knocks, as we all do. But
well, it's interesting. I mean, you got a product that is designed for athletes, outdoor enthusiasts, cyclists, right? And then you mentioned battlefield performance. That's got to be ruggedized so that it can be what, I don't know, driven over by a vehicle or something. How do you get that balance, or do you at that point have entirely two different product streams?
Yeah, at that point, depending on the build, we ended up having two different product lines. But there are a lot of soldiers out there that are mountain bikers, and there's a lot of hikers that were that are veterans, and so one of the advantages that we had was a lot of the people that used them in the military early on were people that actually had their first experience with CamelBak in the recreational side of the business, and so they just saw it as a better way to be able to drink water. But yes, the military has a higher standard for ruggedness, and so we did everything from, like you said, drive them over with trucks. We dropped reservoirs out of helicopters. We also made hydration systems that were chemical and biologically resistant. So we actually had to go through, create a product line that was able to provide hydration to an operator that was in a chem suit, which is not a pleasant environment, and typically high heat, high stress. And up until CamelBak came along with their ChemBio line, they had no good way of being able to hydrate. And so it limited their ability to stay in the suit for long periods of time, certainly limited their ability to operate in that suit for long periods of time. And so it that is just couldn't be more different than someone who's going out for a morning walk. So very different requirements require different products. However, the ability to deliver and their confidence in it didn't change.
Fantastic. So you were busy, I can see. So at that point, you moved to director of design and engineering. So you moved from executing to a vision to maybe setting the vision for the product, and you're talking about marketing and what the market wants and all of that. That's really got to broaden your scope of professional tasks, if you will. Did you find any conflict between design vision and knowing how it was put together? Did it keep you in a certain path, or were you able to separate those, set the vision, and then figure out how to make it?
Any transition like that is going to have its challenges, and especially now managing a design team. And it's the old adage that designers and engineers don't always get along. But I think creating a culture where I believe any good engineer has a little bit of designer in them, and any good designer has a little bit of engineer in them. And so knowing that everybody's on the same team. So I think, I had to adapt a little bit, and knowing that it is a continuum. So whatever we create up here goes, everything kind of flows, quote unquote, downhill. And so we all are committed to each other to try to make something that is going to, get us to the finish line in the best possible way. So I had to develop a sensitivity towards other. I had plenty of sensitivity towards engineering, right? Because that was my first love. But I really developed a kind of love for the whole process and how everything kind of fits together. And that, since that I made that transition, that has kind of been something that I've done and really enjoyed, because I had good mentors that allowed me to I kind of see that and watch them orchestrate that. But also I've seen the fruits of success when that process really goes smoothly. So it was an adjustment, but one I enjoyed.
Excellent. Yeah, good challenge. So you mentioned earlier, water is not always as simple as you think. CamelBak's all about storing water and making it available when needed. And so if there's a fluid, if there's going to be a seal, we know that behind every great product, it's got to have a great seal. That's where Darcoid came in. That's where we met you for the first time. where were the seals, and did you ever run into any seal problems?
Yeah, no, we did. I mean, it was something we were constantly battling to in all different situations. Maybe some situations that early on we didn't identify during the lab or doing limited user testing. Consumers will always take your product and do things that you never intended with, and so it's then your responsibility to then create product now that will allow them to do what they want to do, right? So not restrict them. And so we had a few different legacy designs that we were struggling with. We had patchwork fixes. In a particular seal, if it's not sealing, what do? You just pack more material in there, and that should work, right? How hard can that be? And so in a lot of cases, that's what we did. And but that had the effect that all of a sudden now you can't open and close our reservoir and still get a good seal. In fact, there were more than a few people that had invented wrenches that they would use to be able to remove the cap off the reservoir, because if you tightened it tight enough, we had done a comparatively poor job at seal design that you actually couldn't get it off using regular hand strength, and you needed some leverage. So that was a real big wake-up call for us that, we had a reservoir that sealed under most circumstances, but it wasn't a good product. So we explored options internally, but also decided to look outside to try to get some real expertise, because there was a lot of other things that we were doing. And it was clear we didn't have a good grasp on what was happening and the physics and dynamics of what's actually going on there. And it was a large opening. So we figured we needed to maybe look outside to see if we could maybe get some technical expertise there. And that's what we did.
So that's how you found Darcoid. How did that progression go? I know I wasn't with the company at the time. I know some of the lore going back. That was I know it was a very aggressive development cycle and iteration process.
Yes, it was. We actually, we had gone to actually explored using Parker to begin with, and the reason is because honestly we used a lot of their literature, and that's how we tried to educate ourselves as to how to seal design seals. Yeah. But with all of that expertise comes a little bit of inertia that, based on our timeline, we needed to move quickly, and so Parker had recommended going to Darcoid because of those two things. We needed to move quickly. And we needed the technical expertise and kind of that personal attention, because everybody's application is unique, and ours was particularly unique because we had a very flexible and dynamic system, and we had difficulty kind of managing that. So that's what brought us to Darcoid.
Excellent. And so moved from an O-ring to quite a custom profile. And it was, I believe, had a friction modification as well to drive towards that low opening force that you needed.
Yeah, the requirements were we obviously had to seal under a certain pressure range. We had existing parts that we wanted to mate to. That hindsight were not ideal, and so we had some legacy tools that we needed to. We had some flexibility with, but not a whole lot. And so we not only wanted to seal, but we wanted to solve the real problem that we were having, is that, once people closed it, they couldn't open it up. And so how do we, and our solution to that was taking 5 pounds of O-ring and stuffing it into a 2-pound space. And that's our problem. So Darcoid introduced us to some low friction options that could help with that. So, and also a more flexible seal that was a little bit counterintuitive to us, because it was very flexible, it was very dynamic, allowed the reservoir, because it's a soft system, to be able to do the things that it needed to do and conform to the body and things like that, but still give us the seal pressure that we needed under the conditions we needed to do it. Was certainly eye-opening for us.
Fantastic. So it's not unusual in our experience working with customers who are pushing to get new performance, cross new performance boundaries. We often go from a simple belt and braces kind of seal to something that's much more customized to the specific application. So that's not at all unusual. It gets into a commercial thing often when you supplying seals into a big, high volume production line like CamelBak's. Were you ever tempted to cut out the middleman to go direct back to Parker and source directly once the solution was in place?
Any business is going to look at all the options, but what we found was that the technical expertise that we're able to get and the personal attention that we're able to get and actually get engineers and the attention I think we needed. We were a high maintenance customer, and I'm going to stop short of needy, but we were but we required a lot of touch time, and that's something Darcoid provide. And from our previous experience, we just knew that we certainly got all the Darcoid got all the technical expertise they needed from Parker, but we couldn't get the attention that we needed. So yeah, absolutely, we explored that, but we ended up kind of coming back to Darcoid because of the value proposition that they provided.
Well, we thank you for that, and it has been a tremendous relationship. So, and I know you're a part of that. So, thank you, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump on to limb innovations, adaptive prosthetics. How did you adapt from going from one specialty field to another?
That was an interesting one. It was I had this was a company I had been on the board of advisors for. They were a startup in San Francisco that was creating modular and adaptable prosthetics for lower limb amputees, really addressing the prosthetic market, which historically has kind of lied outside the kind of as more of a mom and pop stops. And so the challenge is there aren't a lot of opportunities for amputees to get consistency of care. It exists outside the medical health record. And so primary cares and surgeons, in some cases, get very little visibility into prosthetic care after the initial treatment, after the initial surgery. And so this was an opportunity to create what we call a semi-custom product, semi-modular, semi-custom product that really focuses on user comfort, because the vast majority of amputees, certainly in the U.S., have other comorbidities, associated with vascular diseases and things like that, and are typically on a lot of medications. And prosthetics rely on a good fit in order for it to be comfortable and regain mobility. But the problem with a lot of the patients is that they may gain or lose weight primarily due to their medications or things like that, and so their prosthetics actually weren't comfortable. And of course, it's the spiral, right? If the prosthetic's not comfortable, it's not going to wear it. They're not going to wear it. They're not going to be mobile. If they're not mobile, then their health declines. And so you get into this spiral for a patient that is something that just wasn't addressed in the current prosthetic market. And so jumping into that was that had both not only in-house design but also in-house manufacturing, using actual patient data to be able to customize the fit, but do so using modular components to help change all of that. Was really interesting.
Okay. I can imagine you brought a lot of experience from the soft goods side of things with CamelBak, comfort, ergonomics. Were you hands-on in the role, or were you leading and directing the team?
There was a little bit of both. It was a small team but very capable, very motivated, passionate group. So a lot of it was kind of hands-on. I did bring a lot to the table in terms of things that I have done, but I learned just as much from the people that I worked with. Everything from prosthetists to orthopedic surgeons to cardiovascular surgeons to things like that. Even though there's a lot that I had done and was happy to bring to the table and maybe teach a little bit, I did just as much learning, and some of that required some hands-on. So just out of interest, if anything, was good.
Excellent. So then you moved to where you're at now, the Galten Group. What's I imagine you have your pick of projects. How is it to be on your own, running your own consulting gig?
It's certainly a change. After I had finished at LIM, I this was pre-COVID, so it was. But I was the commuting was just soul sucking for me, so I just wanted to do something that maybe allowed me to maybe be on the road less, and I was able to tap into the network and kind of figure out, I knew what I was good at, and but how do you bring that to a kind of a new company? So it was a big step for me, and one I haven't regretted, and I'm here almost 4 years in, and really the thing I really enjoy about it is one, meeting really talented and interesting people, and being able to bring something to the table that makes their business better. But also the variety of things that I get to see is really the appeal for me. Everything from medical products to outdoor furniture to wearables to you name it. It's a little, so every day is different, for better, for worse.
Excellent. Same principles apply to any project, right?
Same principles apply.
Excellent. So I'm going to circle back to the beginning, where you got your start, at Davis, and back to seals. What level of seal knowledge did you have when you left school, when you graduated?
Let's see. Let me just add the numbers here. Oh, zero. That's right. I had zero coming out of college. And Google wasn't around then, so I'm probably dating myself. But no, I had very little knowledge about the mechanics of seals.
Okay, so how does a student getting out of school develop a good working knowledge of seals? Is it trial and error, enough leaks and explosions that they get the hang of it, or reading up on manuals and calculators, outsource it? What's the path?
Well, I think it's a variety of things, and I think all of those things that you said apply. That it's sometimes doing the right thing by doing the wrong things. But I think now, with the ability to be able to reach out and unless you're working for a seal company, probably the product that you're working on is its essential function is not to be housing for seals, but it's to do something else equally as important. So that doesn't mean you have to be an expert in seals. And so I found early on it was trial and error, and you get your hand slapped enough. Maybe I should call an expert. And to be curious about looking it up and understanding the fundamentals. But every application is different, and so now more than ever, I try to find someone who actually knows what they're doing, make me look smart, make me do it right the first time. And kind of go from there. So it was a progression, no doubt.
Excellent. I'll put you on the spot, and I think you kind of answered it with one of your CamelBak stories, but what's the most important concept a graduating mechanical engineer should know about seals?
The most important concept is you don't know what you don't know. There are so many things that I didn't understand about seals, from pressure to materials to surface finish to gland design to tolerancing, compatibility. That there's just a tremendous amount there, and not only to the most important concept is it's sometimes it's easy to seal once. Okay, if that's all you have to do, you have to do it once. It's great. If you have to seal 10, 1,000, or 1,000,000 times, that's where the expertise really comes into play. And I didn't have any appreciation for that. I got it to work on the lab bench, so we're done. And what early on, what I didn't account for is not every product is made the same. And so how do you account for that? How do you make sure that you are creating a sufficient seal across your distribution of product that you are going to get, whether you specify it or not, long term? And so making sure that you have a seal that works day one and a seal that works on day 1,000, I think, is the thing that is you really got to pay attention to.
You touched on a lot of things that bring new customers to our door when they are learning the hard way. So loud and clear on that one, Jeremy. So nearly got my final question coming up. I know we're running out of time, but a bonus question, if you're up for it.
Okay.
What's the biggest lesson that you learned personally or professionally?
There's so many. Probably, I would say, irrelevant to kind of this discussion. I think I came out, you come out of college and you think you're all that. You've learned a lot, you know a lot. You were probably pretty smart when you went in. Probably smart, one of the smarter ones in your class, and then you come out thinking that you're just as smart, and then and that continues for a while. And I think the thing that I learned that it's very easy to fall into the trap of the non-invented here syndrome, where if I didn't design it, it's not good enough, or if I didn't come up with it, or it's not my idea, then it must be bad. And this affects young engineers and experienced engineers as well. And the one thing I learned is that I can't necessarily be an expert in everything. And I had a great, one of my favorite managers was my manager right out of college, Dave Burris at Acuson. And he said, listen, 80% of the engineering is knowing where to look. And what that meant was that I don't need you to be expert in everything necessarily. But what I need you to do is know where to find the experts. And so that kind of gave me, did I listen to it to begin with? Of course not. I was young and stupid. But I still remember it. And there are a lot of things, a lot of little things like that. And the beautiful part about it, he wasn't an engineer. He was the best engineer I've ever met, but he was not a degreed engineer. And so there's a lot of things that he said, that in particular, that stuck with me, that never let pride get in the way of delivering the best thing you can deliver. And if that means calling in an expert or asking a colleague or listening to a different opinion and truly considering it, then that's what it takes. And so I think that's, am I perfect at it? No way. But do I think about it a lot? Absolutely. And a lot of times it's kind of saved my bacon. So that's probably the biggest lesson.
You put that on your notice board, right? Never let pride get in the way. That keeps it humble, right? That's excellent. Thank you. All right. Final question, Jeremy. So from my perspective in the seal industry, I know that we stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before us. Pretend you're at an awards ceremony. You're at the Oscars, the Emmys, and you're being presented with a Lifetime Achievement Award for everything you've done up until this point. You're up to the mic. The lights are on. Who do you thank? Who are the colleagues, friends, mentors, peers? Who would you acknowledge?
Well, I'd start with everybody, because regardless of my working relationship with people, I always, I love to study people, and I enjoy that. But I think there's a variety of them. I think, going early back in my career, Dave Burris, who passed away, was probably had a huge influence on me, just from an approach to creative design. But I've worked with a lot of engineers and designers that have influenced me. Some I didn't get along with, but as time went on, I realized they were probably pushing me to be better than I wanted to be. And I was just too stubborn to see it. And then probably on the back end, Sally McCoy, who was my CEO at CamelBak, and it continues to be a great friend and mentor to me. She was very special to me and to a lot of people. So, when not that I have the bookend of my career on the back end, but those two for me represented kind of the parts of the career that grew the most because of their influence. And so, if I could get two awards to share and not give one to everybody, then those would be the two.
Super. Thank you, Jeremy. So we've been talking to Jeremy Galten, principal at the Galten Group. Before we go, Jeremy, is there anything you need people to know about the Galten Group that we haven't talked about, and how can they contact you?
Sure. The galtengroup.com. Feel free to reach out. Jeremy at thegaltengroup.com is probably the best email. No, I think you covered it pretty well other than that.
Super. Thank you. Can't thank you enough for your time today, Jeremy. I do appreciate it. I really enjoyed getting to know you better. Thank you. And thanks for watching. See you next time on the Makers of Our Future podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Makers of Our Future podcast. Behind every great product is a great seal. Learn more about how we can help at www.darcoid.com. That's DARCOID.com. The best seal, on time, zero defects, Darcoid.